You're listening to Three Things to Know with Stephanie Haney, with experts and insiders on what you need to know in Northeast Ohio.
Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to the Three Things to Know podcast. I'm Stephanie Haney. I am quite happy to have you with me today. As always, thanks for being here to talk about something that I think is pretty important for all of us. I want to talk about sleep today. Are you tired? I think I exist in a persistent state of tiredness because I know that I don't get enough sleep. I know that for a fact. I am such a night owl. I don't know if I'm more creative at night, if I'm more productive at night, if I just like being up at night. I can tell you that when I'm in my bed in the morning, I don't want to get out of it. But when it comes to getting in my bed and going to sleep, it's a problem. And I am not alone. The CDC says that 1 in 3 adults in America don't get enough sleep. Now you might be wondering, what is enough sleep? Well, according to the American Academy of Sleep Medicine and Sleep Research Society, people ages 18 to 60 years old are recommended to get 7 hours of sleep a night. I'm thinking to myself, what a luxury, right? Who out there is getting 7 hours of sleep a night? Let me know if you are. Let me know if you're getting more. But my hunch is a lot of you are like me and probably getting less. And I say what a luxury, but I kind of do it to myself too. There is this concept, and this is what we'll be talking about today. Revenge bedtime procrastination. What a name, right? How ominous is that? Revenge bedtime procrastination. And the idea is you're kind of taking back some of your time. If you're a busy person throughout the day and you don't get a lot of time to yourself, you're taking back a little bit of that time by postponing your bedtime and doing mindless things. You know, when I was little, I always had a TV in my bedroom and we kept it on at night. It kind of acted like a nightlight, but when I got older, when I had a TV in my bedroom, I found myself just watching mindless things like Friends reruns that I'd seen 200 times and staying up for no good reason. And then that segued into scrolling Instagram for me. There is no good reason that I need to be scrolling Instagram until the wee hours of the morning, but I'm doing it. And the idea is something called revenge bedtime procrastination. This is also something that a podcast that I really love talked about recently. If you're familiar with Glennon Doyle, she is the best-selling author of the book Untamed. It's an incredible book. She talked about this on her podcast recently, so it got me thinking this is something that we should probably talk about here on the Three Things to Know podcast. So to get us in the know on this, of course, we're going to the experts. We are talking with Cleveland Clinic's Sleep Disorders Center psychologist, Dr. Michelle Drerup. So she's here with us today to talk about all about this phenomenon, what we can do about it, what we can do to build those good sleep habits, and why it's so important to get the sleep that I so desperately need and would really enjoy, I think, if I could get around to getting out of my own way. So let's bring in Dr. Drerup right now. Dr. Drerup, thank you for joining me on the Three Things to Know podcast.
Well, thank you for having me.
This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart, is sleep. And probably for a lot of people. What I want to talk to you about today is this concept of revenge bedtime procrastination. What a name. Tell us how you would describe this as a professional.
So some people call it doomsday scrolling, but it's really just bedtime procrastination. And what it is that, essentially when someone is feeling like they don't have control over maybe a lot of their day and they're feeling that they're very busy during the day, this happens at night, that it's like, I'm going to try to find some me time and take control back, and ends up leading to delaying bedtime.
A delay in bedtime, and then, of course, less sleep overall, right? Because the time you have to get up in the morning doesn't typically change, even if you're staying up later.
Right. And so people, it's not that they're not aware of this, but in that moment, they're maybe enjoying what they're doing, and they feel like, okay, this is actually time that I get to choose what I'm doing, and I haven't felt like I've had that during the daytime. So in that moment, it's very enjoyable, and then it's when you wake up in the morning realizing that you got an hour or so less of sleep that you notice it.
And boy, I could tell you, I speak from experience, I notice it. Now, you say that this is also sometimes referred to as doomsday scrolling, but How long has this been a thing? Is this something that we've been doing even before social media, or when did this come about?
Yeah, it's really a new term, but it's an age-old action that has happened. So, now it's just easier. I think it's probably more frequent because we have our devices that we're able to take to bed with us versus, it used to be maybe I'm just going to watch another show. With streaming services, I think that enhances it too, because it's not just I watch one show, the next show starts to go on, and so I'm just kind of continue on. So it's been something that we've been doing for a long time. It's just really gotten more, I guess, media, kind of press with these devices that are enhancing or making it easier for us to do it.
You talk about the streaming services. There's nothing more shaming than when you get that notice from Netflix that says, "Are you still watching?" You've been watching it so long that they're like, "We're actually not sure if you're still there." Okay, are there particular people who are more affected by this bedtime procrastination than others?
Yeah, it tends to be more frequent in women. And that potentially could be some of the reasons why is that oftentimes if a female's working outside the home, when they're coming home, they're not really leaving their job a lot of times. Still to this day, females tend to bear more responsibility when it comes to childcare and the household chores like that. So hopefully that's changing somewhat, and there's a little bit more of a share of the wealth of all those things related to the household. But I think that becomes part of it, that not having the ability to carve out time for themselves during the day. So it is more frequent among women.
And is that the revenge part of it that comes in? Who are we taking revenge against? Are we taking revenge against ourselves, against society, against the patriarchy? Like who is this against?
Right. Yeah, you're taking revenge against whatever was happening during the daytime, right? Those daytime hours that you lost. And so this is my revenge. Yeah. And it's really it goes against us, even though we think it's not, right? So.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. How common is this? We're saying it's mostly impacting women. Among that population or among the greater population, how many people are being impacted by this?
Yeah, we don't have good data in terms of how frequent this is occurring, but I think if you talk to most people, a lot of people will admit that this happens to them on nights. So it's probably very common. Just in my practice and working with patients with sleep disorders, this is a complaint and a concern for a significant number of people that I see. At least several people every week that I see are bringing this as one of their kind of main difficulties in allowing and prioritizing sleep. So yeah, we don't have that data and the numbers, but probably a pretty high number.
Well, I can tell you, based on the timing of the notifications I get from the people in my circle, and definitely the timing of the notifications that people get from me in my circle, it's pretty common, at least anecdotally speaking, against the people that I know, because, I'm getting those notices at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and I'm like, why are you still up? Why am I still up? Go to bed. Everybody go to bed.
It should be that, we put our devices to bed just as we put ourselves to bed. That this unfortunately doesn't happen for a lot of people.
That's a great tip. I love that. Now we're going to get more tips from you in a minute, but I want to get a little bit more to the root of why are we doing this to ourselves? Like, what's the psychology behind it? And why, when we know we're going to pay for it later, why does it feel good in that moment to be doing this, TV watching or mindless scrolling or whatever it is that you're doing to delay the bedtime?
Yeah, it tends to be probably, associated more commonly with people who have a tendency to procrastinate in general. So there's a tie there in terms of that kind of psychological trait of procrastination. But, again, we think of, a lot of the things we do, we may feel like, okay, I know this feels good in the short term. I'm going to eat this ice cream. I'm going to, enjoy whatever. But then maybe long term, it doesn't make me feel so good. But in that moment, that immediate reinforcement feels good. And then it becomes, very cyclical, because if I have delayed bedtime, I'm not getting enough sleep, I'm not as productive, as efficient the next day, well, it's going to kind of keep going into that next night that I'm now pushing everything back, maybe that I have to get done. So I don't get that time for myself to prioritize, things that maybe would be enjoyable for me. So it comes out again. So it's kind of in that moment. We're not thinking about the consequences.
That whole vibe of instant gratification, which we've become so accustomed to.
Yep.
Well, you mentioned some of the consequences there too, but what are some of the other consequences of really delaying this bedtime, not getting the hours of sleep that we need? Because sleep is important. I feel it when I don't get it.
Right. And you ask anyone, when they've had less sleep, they feel more irritable. We don't regulate emotions as well, so there's a mental health impact. There's also in terms of, our ability to think, concentrate, focus. And then the physical impact of sleep loss is varied in terms of, thinking about with the COVID pandemic, there's links with weakened immunity. So the importance of sleep now, as well as increased rates of high blood pressure, increased issues with weight concerns. And contributes potentially to a lot of other health conditions.
Okay, so we see different recommendations from different places for what is the proper amount of sleep. What's your professional opinion? How much sleep should we be going for each night?
So that is tough. Everybody's sleep need is different. And, we hear about this magic number of 8 hours. And really the guidelines that we have that most adults need between 7 to 9 hours a night. But there are some people that sleep 6 and that feels good for them and they function well. Some people need more. So that's really an average, and really paying more attention to, when I know that I get 7 hours at night, I feel good. I don't feel tired during the daytime. Maybe I feel a little tired in the afternoon, but that's normal, right? We have a little bit of a kind of circadian push towards sleep at that time. So you might feel a little more drowsy, but just more in terms of your functioning. So that night when you got 6 hours, that wasn't enough for me, right? So paying attention to that.
Okay, very personal. We need to be paying attention to it. Keep track of how we're feeling when we get X amount of sleep. That's a great tip there. You've already mentioned put the device to bed when you go to bed. Another great tip. What are some other ways that we can get into better sleep habits so we don't feel the need to take revenge against ourselves or the day or whatever else it is?
I think, probably the most is to prioritize allowing yourself time for the things that maybe are happening at night that are enjoyable, or kind of setting aside and carving out that time during the daytime, giving yourself these mini breaks throughout the day. If it, especially, I think we've seen this more during the pandemic with people working at home, and there's a little bit less of this separation of work and home. So giving yourself that space and breaks during the day to do those, I think, is essential. Otherwise, in terms of the sleep, really prioritizing sleep too, right? So the after effect, we feel it, but then when it comes to that next night, I think we tend to forget. So just really prioritizing sleep, and doing things that promote sleep during the daytime. Some of the sleep hygiene things that everybody's aware of, kind of limiting their caffeine, trying to limit naps, all those things to set you up for a better night of sleep are helpful.
Now, this is something that I've seen particularly I want to ask you about. Going to bed at the same time every night. Of course, that would be helpful if you have to wake up at the same time every day. But just in general, is that a good habit to get into for better sleep? Does that make a difference?
So, depends. You should probably have the same kind of goal bedtime, right? And people have lives, and you might have different schedules slightly on the weekend. But much more important is the wake time. The wake time is kind of your anchor. And so if you, stay up a little later and sleep in on the weekends, within an hour range, it tends not to be problematic. But, say someone's like, I got to be in bed by 10, but they get home at 9:30 and they're wired at 10. They shouldn't go to bed at 10. They should kind of wait a little bit to kind of wind down a little longer. So it's much more thinking about a consistent wake time and maybe trying to keep a consistent bedtime and winding down to be ready for bed when you can, at the night, but not to get in bed if you're wide awake just because it's my bedtime.
Okay. One more thing I want to ask you about, just anecdotally as well, because I think this is something that's been helpful for me. I try not to do non-sleep things in my sleep space. I try not to take my computer in there, and that's just even during the day too. Is that really a thing, or is that just a little psychological thing that works for me, or is there any truth to that, keeping the bed space just for the sleeping?
Well, there's really truly psychological principles that is influencing. So we want that space for bed to be the space where just sleep happens. So when you're doing other activities, you're now breaking that association. And so, if someone's a good sleeper, the bed is a cue and it helps them fall asleep more quickly. But when someone's kind of eroded that and they might be, working in bed, I have patients that I'm seeing for insomnia and they're doing doctor's appointments in their bed, right? And so really making that space be a place where sleep and intimacy happens. Some people will read in bed to help them wind down. Now, if that promotes sleep, then they just read for 10, 15 minutes. I'm okay with that. That's not a problem. But, spending a lot of time in bed when you're not sleeping really kind of breaks that association. A big component of when people start to develop regular sleep difficulties.
Okay. Well, this has been incredibly helpful. Thank you for talking through all of this with us, Dr. Drerup. Hopefully we could stop taking revenge against ourselves and get the sleep that we need. I appreciate your time.
Your cell phones need a break too. They need to go to bed too, right? So give them a break.
That's true. Let's not take revenge against our cell phones either. Just put them in a drawer. You don't need to smash them or anything. Give them a little rest.
Yeah, and there's always the old-fashioned alarm clocks. People are like, well, I use it for alarm. How am I going to wake up? The old-fashioned alarm clocks work well. So
there you go. Thank you so much, Dr. Drerup. I appreciate your time.
You bet.
Yeah, great tips from Dr. Drerup. Here's hoping I and you and we can all put them into practice, because it's about halfway through the day and I'm ready for a nap right now. Although I am not a napper, I will tell you this. If I take a nap, I'm down for the count for a couple hours. So you're not getting any 20-minute power naps out of me. So just know that if I ever tell you I'm taking a nap, just talk to me. Talk to me the next day or talk to me in a couple hours, because it's not going to be short. All right, let's talk about what you need to know in NEO this week. And you know that I love a good pun. And since we're talking about sleep, here's a place that should be on your radar. It's called Goodnight John Boy. You're not going to get sleep if you go to Goodnight John Boy, but this is the place you go to when you've built up all that sleep and you've got a little bit of extra energy to burn. This is a new disco bar. It's in the Flats, East Bank in downtown Cleveland, and it's all 70s themed. Very cool. It's got a light up dance floor, and the co-owner, Bobby Rutter, said when he was putting this together, he was really going for a 70s basement kind of vibe. And I think that they achieved that. They gutted the entire place. It used to be the Magnolias Club in the Flats. So that's where it is. It's in that location. And what they play there is they have local DJs playing 70s and 80s music, and then they also play modern era people who are inspired by that type of music. So like Bruno Mars, Dua Lipa, those kinds of things. And I think I mentioned this already. They've got a light up dance floor and a disco ball, maybe not, but the look is absolutely incredible. They've also got this whole orange carpet thing leading up to the bar, and they serve food too. They serve two things. They serve pizza and they serve chicken fingers, and they serve them all day. So kitchen doesn't close. You can have your cocktails, you can get your snack before you head out, get in your Uber, your Lyft, whatever, and send yourself home. They are open Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Fridays they open up at 4. Saturdays and Sundays they open up at noon. So you could go during the day and then still get your sleep at night if you wanted to. But if you're rested up and you're ready to make a night of it, they're open till 2 a.m. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So the address is 1167 Front Avenue. It's in the Flats, East Bank. They've been open since May. Very cool place. Check it out when you're well rested. And that brings me to a good follow for this week. Usually we're giving you someone to follow on Twitter or on Instagram, but we're changing it up this week because this is a particularly cool account. This is the Relaxation Guy on YouTube. Now, this is a small account. It's not huge, but it is definitely a good follow. There's only a couple of videos there, 4 videos to be exact, about 4,000 subscribers. But they are sleep meditations. So if you would love some soothing, calming music to listen to while you go to sleep, I recommend this YouTube channel. Again, it's called The Relaxation Guy. It's not a custom YouTube YouTube URL. So I will link it in the show notes. I'll link it on WKYC.com. I'll link it in the YouTube information so you can get to it that way. Here's why I love this particular YouTube page for sleep meditation. There are no ads. There is nothing worse than listening to a sleep meditation or relaxing music to help put you to sleep, and then in the middle of it, you're getting some blaring ad with the volume up telling you that you need to check your cybersecurity or your car insurance or something like that. So these are ad-free. It's just 4 videos on the account. There's 2 7-hour videos and there's 2 2-hour videos. So you're going there, you're getting exactly what you're looking for. This is The Relaxation Guy on YouTube, and I think he is definitely a good follow. So you want to check that out if you like a little bit of relaxing music to help get you to wind down and go to sleep at night. That's it for this week's 3 Things to Know podcast. Thanks for hanging out with me. Hopefully we didn't put you to sleep with this episode, but hopefully you'll get some good sleep because of it, right? If you like the episode, share it with your friends, please, so that we can connect with more people here in Northeast Ohio. Leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening to us, and shoot me a message. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you want to talk about. My name on Twitter and Instagram is _Stephanie Haney, and you can also email me at WKYC, by the way. It's just shaney@WKYC.com. So shoot me an email and let's have a conversation, and I will see you back here next week with more 3 Things to Know.
Thanks for listening to 3 Things to Know with Stephanie Haney from WKYC Studios. Subscribe now to stay in the know.